Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's really an honor for me to be meeting with you folks today. It's really inspiring to see what y'all been up to this summer. This group fills me with so much hope, not just for our future, but for our right now. I thought it would be helpful in my comments to share with you some of my journey and some of the work we do at Uncommon Law. It may also point to where we all might be headed together. Back when I was in elementary school, I spent my summer days watching reruns of this old show called Perry Mason. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was about an attorney who worked with his investigator to go beyond the most obvious clues about a case and get to what was really going on. At the time, I imagined I'd one day be an attorney, but I really didn't realize just how many obstacles would be in my way, including limitations I would later place on myself. And by the time I got to high school, I still had some notion that I wanted to be a lawyer, but I'd started to have some doubts. I almost never saw any lawyers on TV or anywhere in real life that looked like me. It seemed like all the lawyers and judges were well-dressed white people who talked weird, but all the defendants and people in jail were Black and brown folks. I had a lot more in common with the people they called criminals than I had in common with the lawyers. And as I look back, I even recall around that time in my life feeling shame. I wasn't really ashamed of being from a poor family because most of the families in our neighborhood were in similar shape. But I was definitely ashamed of having a family member in prison. I was ashamed that I didn't look like or dress like the people who seemed to have everything going for themselves. I realized, you know, I kind of bought into this idea that being a success as a lawyer, as a professional, or really anything else, had to look a certain way, and I didn't look that way. And just to give you a sense of how bad it got, my mother worked two full-time jobs and raised seven kids and three grandkids by herself. When I was probably 13 or 14, I got the chance to go to a meeting that was taking place one evening down at the courthouse downtown. It was an opportunity for students to hear lawyers and judges talk about how courts work. It also involved a tour of the jail that was next door to the courthouse. So I was already getting dressed up for the big event when my mother came home from one of her jobs. And I pretty much, had my fit together and was ready to go when I noticed she wasn't changing her clothes to get ready. Instead, she was sitting down wearing sweatpants or something like you'd put on when you're getting comfortable after a long day at work. And the truth is, she probably was going to have 5 or 6 hours before she had to report to her next job that night. So here's where I had clearly lost my mind. I said, "Mom, aren't you going to change so we can go?" Now, she looked at me with what could only have been the pain of deep disappointment, seeing how ungrateful I was that she was skipping the little bit of break she had to rest between jobs in order to take me to this program. Now, I imagine she had to muster all the strength she had just to not strike me down right then and there. Instead, she just said, "Well, if this isn't good enough, maybe we just shouldn't go." Of course, I instantly realized my mistake. Not just that I might be messing up my chance to go to the program that night, but that I was basically saying to my mother that all of her efforts with all her jobs to support all her kids for all those years were simply not enough for us to fit into this society if we didn't present ourselves in a certain way. That's what I was communicating to her in that. And over time, I've really learned that white supremacist culture is what tells Black and brown people that we aren't supposed to pursue the kinds of career paths that are associated with success. That culture tells us that the Black people on TV or in movies are the dangerous criminals, while the white people are the lawyers and judges. Either they're the prosecutors or they're the white savior for the poor Black, defendant. It even tells us that if we do get the chance to become a lawyer or other professional, we have to do it in a way that looks as white as possible in order to be accepted. But, we have to, all of us have to reject that. The way you look, the way you walk and talk and dress is just as valid a form of your self-expression as anything else. See, I think as long as you have some level of emotional intelligence and can communicate, you can chart your own path, your own future. When I started my organization, I named it Uncommon Law for a lot of reasons, but one was because I believe that real justice has to be done differently. So I committed to building a new system, really, one that sees the people behind the labels of criminal, of defendant, of juvenile, of inmate, prisoner, or lawyer. A system that focuses not on crime, but on how to keep people healthy and safe, and how to help them heal when they get harmed. So I also believe in a society that allows people to show up as their true, authentic selves without pretending to be someone else. Here's a little bit I want to share about our work at Uncommon Law. We deal a lot with trauma, and if you're wondering what we mean by trauma, we're really talking about two things. First, we're talking about a physical, emotional, or psychological event or series of events. And our focus at our work is usually on those events that occurred in childhood or adolescence. The second, we're referring to the absence of any help understanding and addressing those experiences. So as a result, there may be long-lasting effects on a person's physical and mental health, on their relationships, on their school or their work, and other aspects of their life. For example, if a person loses a parent to addiction or incarceration, they may feel rejected and abandoned by that parent, thinking to themselves, she chose drugs over me. Very common feeling, I think. Sometimes those lasting effects show up in the way we talk about ourselves to make sense of the harm we experience. For example, we may tell ourselves that the abuse or abandonment must be our fault because we're not good enough or not lovable. So trauma results when there's no one to help them understand those feelings and help them understand that what happened isn't their fault. My own life experiences had me saying all kinds of stuff about myself. I was too shy and introverted to speak up about any big ideas I had. My skin was too dark and my lips too big for people to see me as normal and feel comfortable around me. I thought I didn't really even understand how the world actually works. And I didn't feel like I attended the best schools, didn't study all the right subjects or develop the right kinds of networks that could lead to success. Just an example, just a few of the sentences I used to tell myself. These are sentences I used to say to myself. I would say, they don't really want me here. Or I would say, somebody else who's smarter or cooler or more experienced or sophisticated or wealthier should be in the lead, not me. My voice isn't powerful and doesn't really matter. These are the things I would say. But over the years, I've learned to replace those negative sentences with more positive ones that remind me that anything is possible, that I am good enough, and that I don't have to accept the limitations other people might put on me. I even teach a class at Berkeley Law School, as you mentioned, based on my work developing a new way to show up as a lawyer. I also employ 25 people, including 8 people who've come home from being sentenced to life in prison. They were labeled as murderers and monsters, thrown away in prison. And for many of them, that happened when they were the same age you are right now. All their sentences told them they deserved to die in prison. But we knew the truth was a very different story. They're one of us, and we're honored to share their journey. One more thing I'll say about trauma before I conclude my remarks. Because I think it's important to know that no one else has the right to make you tell your story or to make you relive those most painful and traumatizing moments of your life. But I do encourage you to find a way to name, talk about, and process that trauma so it doesn't keep you stuck in the past. See, I think we all have sentences that we hear and that we say about our own lives, but we can replace those old ones with new ones about the kind of reality we want for ourselves and for our community. So we still have more than 2 million people locked up in this country. Most of them are Black and brown. We're busy undoing decades of racist policies and practices, and we're replacing them with restorative justice and equity. And I think real public safety doesn't even require more lawyers. We need people working on housing equity, healthcare, employment, food security, educational opportunities, environmental health. We're looking to you as the leaders in this new conversation about who you are and about who we are as a community and what's possible for our future. See, that future doesn't look like the past because it looks like you. So thank you once again for this opportunity to meet virtually with all of you this evening. Congratulations to the 22 graduates of the program this summer. I wish you the best of luck really in this next chapter of your life. Thank you.